I call this meeting to order. Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome this evening to everyone to our 2024 Budget and Levy Hearing Meeting. Just want to welcome everyone here, and with that, I will turn it over right away to our Administrator, Bruce Messelt, to conduct the first part of this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. For folks who are here tonight, just a little bit of agenda. The intent of tonight is to discuss the 2024 proposed budget of the county and the levy that the county administers. Obviously, you know, when you get a property tax bill, it has everybody in there, school districts and cities. And we can talk a lot about the county budget and levy tonight, and you'll see that. And we'll try to make sure you have information on how to discuss what's happening if you saw a school district levy increase or a city levy increase as well. And I would also note that if you are questioning the value that was established for your home, and you don't even have to wait till after the presentation, but Michelle is going to wave her hand back here, and she's there, and she has her staff here. She's our county assessor, and they're the ones who evaluate the value of your home upon which taxes are levied. And Michelle's staff is here, and we will try to answer any questions about the value of homes as soon as possible tonight. Worst case is you might get an appointment set up to follow up. Really what we want to look at with that is to see if the house was properly valued, and then if there were any mistakes or anything, the process to go through to question the value. In addition, we also have the auditor treasurer's staff here. Diane Arnold's going to wave her hand. Diane and her staff are here if there's questions about the property taxes, the big bill you get, about how to pay it, when to pay it. The reason we asked Diane's staff to be here tonight is because there is a new state law about property tax relief, and they've changed it. It used to be, I think, Diane, 12% increases. And now it's 6%. So if your property tax bill went up by more than 6%, Diane will assist you in how to apply to the state for property tax relief. And that's your total bill. So tonight we're going to talk about the county only going up 3%, but you know, I'm a homeowner like you. My bill went up well over 6%. So I'm going to be talking to Diane as well. And again, you don't have to wait here until after to go see them. Their staffs are both here. If Diane and Michelle are not directly behind you, if you go out the door here, walk down towards the main doors, but then take a right, you'll go past the coffee kiosk. And then when you get to the next hallway, Diane is right down the hallway, and then Michelle is just up a little ways. So we'll have staff here to address individual property values as well as property tax payments and the relief program. With that, I just encourage you to know we're going to go through these fairly quickly. They are available online. I can answer any questions, and Dan is here as well from the administrator, the budgeting side of the house. And then at the end of my presentation, the goal is tonight is to open up the microphone, which is at the podium behind you to your back left. And anybody who is signed up will ask to go first. And then after that, anybody obviously can talk about what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. That's the purpose here, is so that we as staff and the county board can hear you know, how this is hitting us. Because you know, like you, again, we're all seeing increases in values and increases in taxes. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and start the presentation.
Thank you.
Yep. And again, Diane and Michelle are by the back door there. So tonight we'll discuss the truth in taxation, which is the time to talk about the county's budget and how it's impacting your tax bill. Just a note, we want to focus on our mission. And the most important thing you see here is the idea about providing accessible and cost-effective services. We take seriously that focus on cost effectiveness. And so when we built the budget, you'll notice we're going to talk about 3.25% increase at the county level. We really watched what was happening with inflation to make sure that we thought we were still going to be able to provide cost-effective services under our mission. Again, what we do is go through fairly quickly, talk about the market values that were established, and also questions on classification. We'll talk about how we establish our budget. We'll summarize that for you. discuss specifically revenues and expenditures, and then where your property tax dollar is going, a note about the property tax refund program, and then public comment from you all. So in terms of market value, it's important to note that they are established by very strict professional standards. The state determines how we are allowed to set your value. It's pretty frustrating because, of course, property taxes are based on the value of your home. The value goes up, but your income doesn't. That's our reality. That's why we're very sensitive to making sure the budget is appropriate. But Michelle's staff can talk about exactly what we do when we assess a home. Sometimes it's done by sales, so recent sales. Sometimes it's done by improvements. Sometimes it's done by overall what's happening in the market. Again, if you don't have time tonight, you want to stop by and talk about your specific property value, I'd encourage you to get a hold of the county assessor and have a one-on-one discussion. Sometimes we miss things, and that happens. And so we have a process to address those if there are legitimate things that are there. One thing that we really want to highlight, though, is the legislature did realize something with the homestead market value exclusion. The exclusion allows you to reduce your taxable market value if it's a homesteaded property. By decreasing the taxable market value, then your property taxes are decreased. For 2024, homesteads valued at $76,000 or less, the exclusion is 40% of the market value, or about $30,400 for a maximum exclusion. The exclusion is reduced, however, as property values increase, and you can see at $413,800, the exclusion disappears. This county board, as well as most counties, have been advocating to raise that level because values are going up. And so you'll notice that's part of our legislative agenda, is to ask the legislature to raise the market value exclusion. For 2025, they've agreed they will do that. They're going to increase it to $95,000, so it'll be $517,200, which should increase the exclusion for most properties. But again, if your home is valued at over $520,000, there's no exclusion. The other thing that we wanted to highlight, and we haven't done this in the past, but it's also part of Minnesota, that if your home value is below $500,000, you're at a 1% tax capacity rate. If your home value is more, you pay 1.25%. So if your value goes up and all of a sudden you hit that threshold, not only do you lose the homestead market value exclusion, you also get taxed at a higher percentage. The county board will discuss next week whether we want to ask the legislature to change that. So just think about it as two different tax rates, basically. And that's how Minnesota sets up its taxes. Unfortunately, we don't set these rules. They're set in St. Paul. Looking at our budget, just not going through this in detail, I think you get the idea. Our budget is a year-long process. The county board actually starts in January and February and takes a look at the strategic plan. Then in March and April, they set the goals for the next year's budget. Then the county staff put together a draft budget. Starting in June, we have public discussions and meetings in this room to discuss the budget and what we think are the needs. That results in a preliminary levy set in September, this meeting in December or late November, and then the final budget is adopted in December. So it's a year-long process where we continue to look at what we're doing with our budget. In our strategic plan, these are our 5 priorities, and you can see healthy, safe, and livable community, active economic growth, partnerships and informed community, fiscally responsible government to guarantee the public's trust, and organizational excellence. The reason I highlight this is because it's so important to us that we are fiscally responsible. It's one of the 5 key elements of our strategic plan, and we really take a serious look at this. I know when we get to the budget, I'll highlight that for you a little more. So what are our challenges? If you're in business, you probably have similar challenges. If you work in a business, you've probably heard these. And if you're running a home, then you understand these as well. The county is growing in terms of population. We're one of the fastest growing counties in Minnesota. And as a result, we're seeing increasing demand or need for services. And that includes normal services, roads and bridges, public safety, but it also means services for people in need. So whether that's income maintenance, women and children, or our elderly, all of our service demands are going up. As we noted, and somebody mentioned to me earlier in conversations, we're also watching very carefully what's going to happen with the decommissioning of the Sherburne coal plant. That coal plant represents about 12% of our tax base. So over the next 7 years, when those 3 units shut down, that's 12% of our tax base that could disappear. So we're watching that very, very carefully. We're also dealing with aging equipment and infrastructure. The county board, for instance, just got an email from our county engineer about a bridge. It's a wooden bridge, still here in Sherburne County, and the wooden bridge is having issues with rot and degradation. So guess what we have to do? First of all, we have to lower the weight limit on it, make sure we can even keep it open, and now we have to plan to replace it. Just a simple bridge is easily over a couple $1 million. So we have to deal with those just like everybody else does with aging vehicles, aging fleet. Salaries and labor agreements are going up. We try to keep those in check. And of course, we have to pay the same inflation that you and I do at home. So here's our drivers. We saw a 15.5% increase in population from 2010 to 2022. And you can see that's quite a few folks. We are looking at a 3.4% continued increase in population. So again, we're one of the fastest growing counties in terms of population. The good news is our tax base is also growing by new construction. And the nice thing is that means the pie gets bigger. So more businesses and more homes are paying some of the taxes. And you can see in the last few years, we've been averaging between $150 million and almost $200 million in new value in new construction. And then for the existing homes and businesses, on average, we've been seeing about a 7.7% increase in values. They've been higher, as you know, the last couple of years. Houses have gone up tremendously in value. Michelle will tell you, if you get a chance to talk to her, that she thinks now looking next year, the market's slowing down a bit. It's flattening, so there might be some relief. Let's talk a little bit about our budget then. So the county budget is like a $130 million business. That's a lot of money that we put into all of our activities. About half of that, you can see, comes from local property taxes. So we get revenue from very few places, and most importantly is the local tax. So again, we're very sensitive to that line item on your bill that you have in front of you. We are proposing to the board a 3.25% increase from last year's levy. What I want to note is that's about 1/3 of the growth in our tax base. So as a result, what that means is as the base gets more valuable, we're not matching that growth. We're trying to stay below it because some of that tax base is paid by people whose home values are going up, not just by new construction. As a result of that, we're very excited that for the 10th year in a row, the tax rate actually goes down. What that means effectively is if your home value didn't go up, your county property taxes will have gone down. And there are folks, I'm sure, in this room, if you look at that line item, they'll say, yeah, mine went down. Maybe not a lot, $17 I think I heard, but some people's county property taxes actually have gone down. Can't say anything about the cities and the schools. Here's our history. If you're wondering where we track this, this is looking at about a 12-year range. And you can see the levy, on average, has been going up about just over 3% a year. What's interesting is you go back to the early, like 2012, 2013, the county had a bunch of zeros and 1%. And then all of a sudden we found out that we had bills that we had to pay. So you see those increases in 2017, 18, and 19 to catch up. The county board before this one decided that those big jumps were not good. And so they've tried to say, let's make, if we have to increase, do gradual steps every year. And we're at least pleased with that we don't have a 12 or 15% increase. Some of our neighboring counties are facing that this year. The tax rate, you can see, has been going down by almost 3% a year, 2.73%. The tax capacity, you can see, is on average 7.3%. And then if we adjust how much per person we are asking every resident of Sherburne County to pay, it's actually been going down by about 1%. Now that's adjusted for inflation. As you know, that sometimes people say, oh, that isn't real. I mean, I went to McDonald's, it cost me $15 for, a Big Mac meal. Looking at it a little differently in graphs, the blue bar is the actual levy, and the orange bar is the levy when we adjust for inflation. And then the per capita, the purple line is when I adjust that for inflation, and the green is per capita if I don't adjust for inflation. So again, the same message. What we are trying to do is if we look at how much we asked people to pay even 10 years ago compared to today, if we adjust it for inflation, it's actually less. Looking at the tax rate, a similar story. There's the average tax rate going down to 2.73%. When you look us across statewide, that means that we're actually the 9th lowest county for our per capita levy. And you can see us there at $590, and some of our counterparts, Benton, Stearns, Sherburne, Chisago, and Isanti. So we really try to make sure that we're not out of line with the neighborhood as well as the state. Looking at it a little differently, here's the average levy increase. And again, you see Benton, Stearns, Sherburne, Chisago, Isanti, and Wright. And you can see our average has been that 3.85%, and our tax rate is very low at 38.63%. We estimate that will go down next year to that 36.62%. So we really try to be the most cost-effective county within the area that we see competition for jobs, businesses, and for services. Last couple slides on the tax impact summary. This is what it means if you boil it down. If your value was flat, your county portion of taxes would actually decrease. However, if we take the average, which countywide is about a 7.7% increase in a home, we are asking you tonight for $3 more per month. So if your value went up by the average, and then you can see the home there, a $330,000 home would now be valued at $355,000. The county is asking for $3 more a month. So if your value is flat, your taxes go down. Your value went up, we're asking for $3 a month. You can't really read this, but I just want to give you an example. This is throughout the county, and this is part of the frustration. You don't just see a county bill. You see a city bill, you see a township bill, you might see a school district bill, and those rates are varying all across. I've just highlighted a few. So, City of Clear Lake had a 0% increase proposed this year. But part of Princeton is looking at a 17.1% increase in the city taxes. Baldwin Township, a 15.8% increase. Becker Township, 22.3% increase. So depending on where you live, you start adding those up, it looks a lot like sticker shock. And remember, if your value went up enough, your homestead value benefits went down, and you see that double whammy. So let's talk real quickly about how we spend that money. This is where we get our tax dollars. The federal government and the state government take income taxes. Your city, your county, and your school districts do not. The federal government doesn't have a sales tax. The state does. Counties are authorized to use a sales tax, but only for road and bridge projects, roads and transit projects, excuse me. And cities and townships can also get authorization for sales tax. Property taxes, you can see, fund all of your local governments. And recently, the state of Minnesota started taking property taxes too. And then finally, wheelage tax. That's how much you pay per vehicle. And you can see counties and cities and townships do have the option of wheelage tax. Predominantly, it's counties, and we can only use that for construction projects, not for operations. And that can be used for roads as well as transit projects. So revenue on the left, property taxes, state aids, grants, charges for service, and then those wheelage and sales taxes. And then how do we determine where to spend it? We have federal requirements we have to follow, state laws and mandates. We have program requirements. The county board has some discretion with some money. And then we have designated agencies that we spend money with as well, such as the Soil and Water Conservation District, the library. These are places that we fund as well. Looking at it graphically, simple story. And if you remember anything that I say tonight, probably it's these next two graphs. Revenues. We are a two-legged set of crutches. We get half of our revenue basically from the local levy. Everything else is the non-levy. And if you look at that, you can see a lot of that comes, the non-levy revenue comes from transfers. So social services, roads and bridges, that's transfer money from the federal government and the state government. So basically, half of our revenue comes from local taxes. Expenditures, if you remember nothing else, think about the three publics, because that's what the county does. Public safety, public health and human services, and public works. Public works is roads and bridges, we understand that. That's about 25 cents out of every dollar we spend. Public safety, the sheriff's function, the jail function, the county attorney, our community corrections group, that's another 25 cents. And our health and human services activities, again, about another 25 cents. So 75 cents out of every dollar we spend are the three publics. So if somebody says, what does a county do? You just have to remember, public safety, public works, public health and human services. We are a personnel-based organization. Over half our budget goes to personnel, and people cost money. What we do is we focus on that cost of living adjustment, and you can see it's been averaging about 2% a year. Recently, we've been seeing about 2.5% cost of living adjustments. So if you get an adjustment at work, hopefully it's better than that. But we do have to negotiate with 11 bargaining units for the people who work for the county board. Because we're growing, I do want to be transparent. We are adding staff next year. And you can see the areas that we've proposed to add staff include in the county parks system, highway maintenance, in transportation, an assistant county attorney, probation officers, social workers, and then a driver's license position we eliminated. And that was partly because we had that demand for a few years with the enhanced driver's license that the feds were requiring. Some of that demand's gone down, so we're going to eliminate a position. But we are a growing county, and so in our budget, we do have proposed new staff. If you actually look at your tax dollar, and this is on average across the entire county, so it's going to vary if you look at your actual tax rate. That 39 cents is the average of what the county takes out of every dollar that you send Diane. So that means 60 cents or 61 cents is going to the schools, the townships, the taxing districts that we have to give money to. But just so I'm good with you, if you're in a city, it's probably not 39 cents. It's probably somewhere around 30 cents. If you're in a township, it's going to be a little higher. So that 39 cents is an average. But again, if you look at what does that 39 cents get you? Law enforcement corrections, health and human services, and public works again. So same story. So when you send your tax bill in, we're asking for 39 cents out of every one of those dollars on average. Here's, I think, a better way to look at it. Last year, the county was asking every home in Sherburne County to give us $108 a month. Now this year, we're asking for $107. Remember, there's more homes, so that's why it goes down. That means that I have to justify why I'm asking you for $100 a month. And again, what do you get for that? Now, this is your local tax dollar. You can see law enforcement is truly a local function. It doesn't get a lot of state and federal funds. So if you add in the attorney, courts, and law enforcement, you're talking over 40 cents out of every local tax dollar goes for public safety. Then you see again, public works, and then health and human services. So that's how much the county costs to run those functions, $107 per average home in Sherburne County. If you are a budget person, you would like to look at the dollars and figures, or if you want to sit and build your own county budget, we do have this thing called OpenGov. You can find it on our website. You can literally drill down to every line item in our budget. It's all public data. It's all consumable. You can download it in Excel. Maybe you can build a better budget than we can. And I'd encourage you to take a look at it. It's pretty interesting when you start getting into a department and you see where the money's going and also where it comes from. Again, you're talking about a very large organization, but one that is owned and operated for, or owned by and operated for you guys. The property tax refund, again, Diane's staff is here. We want to highlight this year. You can see the changes in red. They've changed this now so that it's only 6%, and you owned and lived in your home basically since January of this year, and your income was less than $128,000, you're available for a Minnesota property tax refund. So I would seriously take a look at that and again, see if you can apply for it. There is a thing that says if your increase was less than $100 though, that 6% increase won't apply. The last thing is to then shift to public comment. And again, if you've signed up, I think Chrissy will call people first who signed up and then open it up to anybody who would like to share thoughts, concerns, ideas with the county board. We are here again to assist you. I would encourage you to consider attending the other truth and taxation meetings with the other taxing entities, which is probably for you a school district, a city council, or let the town board know. In fact, we were just talking, here's an Orrock town board member, and she said she sends people to me when they complain about the county, so I'm going to send them to you if it's about Orrock. Of course, the trouble is Greg and Ann hear about both. So And then following tonight's hearing, what the county board is going to do is take the information that they hear, they're going to deliberate about this, and then they have to make a decision on our final budget by the end of December. We cannot raise the levy beyond the proposed levy. So 3.25% for the county is the most it can be. They do have the authority to lower that levy lower than 3.25% increase, but they cannot raise it higher than what's been proposed. With that, I will turn it over to the chair or to Chrissy to start calling on folks who would like to comment. And again, I will let you know, staff are available on home values or on that property tax program. Dan and Lorraine and Carrie back there are going to help you a little bit, and they'll help you out a little bit.
So thank you, Administrator Messelt. And there is a complete overview of how we come to our budget and what goes into the decisions we make. I'd like you to go back to the slide that lists all the cities, school districts, and townships, so people really keep in mind your bill is not just a county budget, it's also where you live. Mine includes city, school, and county, and those are the numbers that you were looking at with the other entities. They're all listed there for our county. So if you can find out where you live and you can see what your city, your township, it says that on your statement, but what I find when I talk to people is they miss those pieces. They just go, because the county's the messenger, they think it's all us. So just want to be clear with that. With that, we will open the public hearing. So Chrissy will start with those that have signed in. Also, if you're here just to discuss the value of your property, you just don't agree with what the assessor's office has said, Michelle and her staff are here. So you can go visit with them if that's what you're here for.
I'm not going to mess up the last name here, so I have Becky and Rob first.
Becky and Rob, and if you could, when you come to the podium, please introduce yourself and give us your address. Becky's question got answered. Thank you. Next.
Robert Slobitska.
Robert, please come to the podium and share your address. Robert must have gotten his question answered. Next.
Dan Mall.
Dan Mall. Next.
I have a Nate from Big Lake.
So podium over here, Nate. Thank you.
I'm
Welcome,
Nathan
Nate.
Bettendorf. My address is 17119 166th Street, Big Lake. My question is, have you guys looked at making cuts before adding an increase? Or why is it justified just that every year we get to make an increase? Is there any way that we can cut back before we pull more money from the well? Like, what's justification here?
We definitely, we have our directors and our staff scrub their budgets every single year. And just with the contract for employment contracts that we have in place over the next, now they're in place, how many years?
3 years.
3 years. It would be a 3+% increase just to pay our people what we've already promised through contract negotiations with our unions.
Okay, but
So when you're looking at a 3.25, we had next to no increases. We're just paying our people with that.
Madam Chair, if I can add maybe to help a little bit. In June, this county board tasked their staff with bringing three budgets, I'll call them, to review. So the first budget was a status quo budget, just keep on doing what we're doing. Then they directed the directors, the department directors, so like the sheriff and the attorney and the public works director, to come in with possible cuts. And the board reviewed possible cuts, exactly what you were alluding to. And then the third was if there were areas where the directors felt we should invest. If you are interested, I can make that all that available for you. But basically the month of June, we spent looking at those three versions. So where would we cut? Where would we continue? And where does it make sense to invest?
So that's what would make sense to me, is if you were to tell us what you are cutting and then why it's justified to have an increase. Because otherwise it seems like I haven't paid taxes for a long time, but it's always an increase. It's never a decrease. So why? Like,
And-
there's things that we buy, I understand that. But you don't buy those things every year. I got a new road sign. I haven't got one of those for 10 years, so I understand that. But where's the rest of the money going to? It's not just paying people. The county buys things, I understand that, but where's the justification for it?
Yeah, and again, over the 12-year period, there was a negative year and there was a 0 year. But you're right, most times there is a slight increase. And I will make available for you all of the budget materials so you can see all of the cuts and the decisions, if that's helpful.
Next,
Gary Strateski.
welcome, Gary.
Seems to me I've been here before. I have just a serious issue with.
Gary, can you tell us where you live?
Oh, 12808 Orono Road,
Thank you.
just down the way. I'm almost neighbors here with you.
You
down here
are,
in the county, yeah.
yes.
And, but I don't get a break like you guys get. Anyway, because I'm sure they're paying less taxes. When my value goes up in about 2 years, 97.2%, and I do nothing to it, it's very hard to stomach that. And I mean, I'm not sitting on a big house. I'm on a crackerjack little house there. And they got it, going on almost $500,000. And I notice it just gets up just above that where you can't get a break on it anymore. And then now I get a thing from the county. They're coming through and they're going to tear my whole backyard apart and tear all my trees out to put a stupid bike path in there, which they do not need. The road just on the other side is a 4-lane road, and you got 2 4-foot sidewalks there. So, and at one point, the whole thing I roughly measure is going to be 10 feet from my barn, from my shed. And my wife's garden beds is going to be 6 feet from there. Well, if you don't put a fence up, which looks like crap, you don't want a fence up, but you have to, because you have every dog in the county pissing on the corner of my garage, which, I just don't want that. But yet I'm supposed to be paying more taxes. I'm having a real hard time. If you want Sherburne County to keep growing, I would start looking at some different avenues to get revenue, because it's good. I'll sell that damn thing in a heartbeat, because it means nothing to me. It's just, I built houses for years. It's just 2x4s and sheetrock. I can get up and move to another one. But Ramsey, I was there. They got the same way in Ramsey, just like you guys are getting now. You're just a few years behind them. And if you don't change or start doing something different, I'm on the lake, Orono. 2 years ago was a garden because they drained the damn thing. That's supposed to be the same value as my son's on Gull Lake or over on Minnetonka. That makes no sense. It is not that valuable. And if you go around that lake, there's a lot of older people who have been on there a long time. You are driving them right out of that property. But nobody, well, that's what the state says. State 91 to 95% guideline they're supposed to be. There's no common sense about that anymore. That's the problem. Look at it once. And if you're going to do that, it just makes no sense.
So if you'd like to talk about the value of your property and the valuation, you'll have to talk with our
I
assessor.
talked to him over there already. I was here the last time he came, but he never came out to look at it, and I had permits when I was doing once it gets going, I'll be out of here, so I won't be bugging anymore, because I'll sell. I'll get out of Sherburne County so damn fast. My shoes will be on fire.
Commissioner Danielowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We can't disagree with you in regards to what your valuation is. I can't disagree with you on that, but it's the market that is driving this. When you have people coming out from the metro that are purchasing properties that, especially on the lake, I watch it happen all the time. It's supply and demand. And we're in a situation right now where people want to come out here. There's not enough supply. and they're paying outrageous prices, and especially on the lakes. I watched someone pay $335,000 for a lake property to tear it down and build something new, and then,
Is that on Orono Lake?
well, I mean, it's a lake. Anything with water on it, people seem to lose their minds.
Just because it's wet doesn't mean it's valuable.
But I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's the market that is driving this, and we don't control that market.
I had a realtor look at mine just the other day. You people have it appraised at almost $500,000. He said I'd be damn lucky to get $270 for it. So the market ain't driving it. The market drove it till we got our, you know who in there to took care of it and ruined the whole damn thing. And the market, interest rates are high. People can't afford it. You know, it sounds good to say the market is driving, but it isn't driving it anymore. It's done.
Okay, thank
And
you.
you can
I
ask
watched my
realtors.
house
Gonna-
values go up from 300 and some thousand to 500 and some thousand. So I feel your pain. We all own properties and we all pay property taxes. So I feel your pain. That's why we want to go down and talk to the state about doing something different in regards to, it used to be the average home price was, I think for an entry-level home, it was like 250 some thousand. It's like 350 some thousand now. Something's got to change.
And I've talked to the city, I've gone to the city. What do we got that ice rink out there? They say, well, we got the senior center. We're stuck way in the back, but it sounded good in order to get it passed, which it didn't pass in the vote, and they still built the damn thing.
But that's
So-
Elk River. We
Okay.
don't,
I know,
We're
but
gonna
you
need
say
to
talk
move
to the
on to
city.
the
That's
next-
the city.
right.
We're going to
that's what
need to
happens.
move on to our next speaker.
Thank you.
And we'll
right.
have, if you'd like the assessor to follow up with you, we certainly can.
I'm sure, I probably won't be here next year, so you don't have to worry about it. Because if it goes like it's going, I'll be gone, seriously.
Okay, the next, Chrissy?
We have Keith from Elk River.
Evening, Keith Glenn, 704 Jackson Avenue. I agree with you 100%. That's really why I'm up here talking. My taxes, overall taxes for everything, has gone up in the last 5 years over 80% on property taxes. Sherburne County is roughly a third, just a little under a third of what I pay in property taxes. I think that's ridiculous. I mean, that's just totally ridiculous. When you say, well, we're only increasing taxes by 3.3% or 3.2%. No, you're not. The value of my house increased by was 15 or 20%, okay, in 1 year, which is totally bogus. If anything, because of the proposed development right across the street from me for 2 more high-rise rental places on Jackson Avenue, the increase in traffic in the last 5 years has probably doubled at least. And once those apartments get in, it's going to be more. So the value of my house is going to go down even more. You guys are wrong. You guys are increasing my taxes by 15% this year, just this year, from 2023 to 2024. The 3.3% you say you're increasing, bogus. I tell you what, in 5 years, my salary, what I earn, my earning potential, did not increase by 83.5%. There's no I don't think anybody in this place had their income increased by 83.5%. So what you're saying is wrong. I understand that there are things that have to be paid for, but when you mislead everybody, I mean, including yourselves, by saying we're only increasing this by 3.5% based on what we can collect, you can't do that. You need to say, this is what we spent. People are struggling. Where can we cut money? Why are we spending so much money? If you've got a tax base that's increasing by, I forget how much you said, whatever, 10%, the actual tax base, that should be bringing in money. That should be surplus money coming in, not making us pay 15% more every year. I mean, I've got in 2020, my taxes went up almost 20%. In 2021, over 12. 2022, over 14. 2023, 18.7. In 2024, it's over 10%. And Sherburne County the Sherburne County portion of it is 15, right at 15%. And it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. And it's hurting people in Sherburne County. And I agree, City of Elk River, a 10.2% on that broken out. And yes, I do, and I admit I'm at fault because I work a ton of hours. I'm getting ready to retire, so I'm gonna start pinching pennies and really looking at where my money's going. I should have been on top of this 10 years ago, seeing what's going on, probably voicing myself a lot more vociferously than I did. Because
Thank you.
it's not right.
Thank you.
Greg Schwartz.
Could I ask a question? I know I'm speaking out of turn. I'm just wondering about what you reflected in the graphics. So anything on our county listing on our proposed tax statement? Anything more than 3.8% or whatever it was, 3.25%, it's probably reflected upon our evaluation of our property.
It could be. I mean, again, we're using averages for this
Because,
but if you've got a specific question, we'll go look at your property.
I'm just trying to help
Yes,
you,
most
and
likely.
I'm also trying
Yes.
to shorten
Yeah, most
everybody's
likely.
stress level.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Okay, next speaker.
Okay, you are correct.
Greg Schwartz, 20424 156th Street, Northwest. I just signed in because I thought we were signing in for here, but I'm not one shy to speak in the crowd anyway. But truthfully, I think one of the things that all of us look for is to own a home, you know, to have a home and to possess a home. It's kind of the American dream to own your own home. But we find out it's looking more like a myth because you get taxed and lo and behold, the price of your property just jumps up through nothing that anybody has done for the most part, by and large. And that just gives greater pause to draw more taxes, to pay more taxes, even though the income of so many have not gone up near that way. I think working for the city or for the county or anything like that should be an attitude not of making profit, but of service, with a real servant's heart. And I appreciate you all coming up here, taking time of your evening to do just exactly that. If you're in it for profit, if you're in it to make a high wage, maybe you should consider the private sector and not forcing the taxes to go up like they are, feeling like you have to go up year after year. Eventually, people are going to have to lose their homes, and many of them are on the brink of it right now. And if you think that inflation is going down this year, that's not going to happen. It's going to go up a lot more. And so we need to take a real look. What are our needs? How can we better meet those demands? We can't keep coming back to this well, or we're going to be pushing people off their land. And that's all it. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Halls?
Madam Chair. So one of the things I've noticed that I've looked at over the last 11 months that we've been here is budgeting and trying to be as responsible as possible with the budgets. The challenge, as I've seen it, both as a homeowner and here on the board, is the property tax becomes whack-a-mole because one entity will hold their property taxes down in a given year, and the next year, and in that same year, some other entity jacks it up because it can. And then that entity gets yelled at. So that entity holds it down the next year, and then the school district jacks it up. And so it becomes almost impossible for a homeowner to manage the situation because you've got 3 or 4 different entities that are taxing all at the same time. And I think this is a real problem. And, you know, traditionally what we've said is that, you know, talk to your state legislature. But I don't feel personally that that was enough. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been working with Representative Novotny. And he's looking at it from his perspective as a legislature and what he sees at the state. And I've been looking at it from what I see as a county commissioner. Now, this is not reflective of the board, but this has to be a comprehensive solution. So what we've come up with is he's putting together language to put together a comprehensive homeownership reform act. Don't know what it's going to be called yet. They're still working on the language. But it's going to have 4 primary pillars is what he's going to put forth. First doesn't have to do with property taxes. First has to do with new construction. So Minnesota, 2023, the average cost of new construction of a home was $519,000. That is $100,000 to $150,000 more than any of our neighboring states. Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa. Same climate, all driven by regulation. So the first pillar of this legislation is to try to repeal some of that needless legislation that's driving up the cost of new construction. The other 3 pillars all have to do with property tax and making that more affordable. So the first piece is Administrator Messalt talked about the 2-tier tax system, where above $500,000, if your home is $501,000 and your neighbor's house is $499,000, your property tax goes up 25% faster than your neighbor's does. That's ridiculous. So we're looking at trying to either eliminate that or to drive it up much higher to $1 million. Another proposal is that make it double the average home price, so that it doesn't hit the majority of people. The second or the third pillar then is around the tax homestead tax exemption. In Minnesota, as Administrator Messalt said, that phases out. Well, we looked at other states like Texas and Florida, where regardless of the value of your home, you get a value for a homestead exemption. In Florida, I think it's $50,000. In Texas, I think it's $100,000. So we're looking at changing the law there so that everybody gets value for the homestead exemption, and it doesn't phase out over the value of your home if your home value is too high. And the final piece, which I think is the most important piece and is the cornerstone piece, is we've looked at Texas just passed a law this year, and Florida passed a law all the way back in 1994, and they revised it in 2008, called the Save Our Homes Law. And what that law does is when you have a homestead exemption, the maximum assessment increase for a home is 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is lower. So what that fundamentally did is that stopped people from being taxed out of their homes. So that's what he's working on. That's what we've been talking about. It's a long way to go. The legislation's not been written yet, but he has vowed to carry that forward. So if you want to do something, what I would suggest is let him know that you support him in this and that you're behind him. And if he's not your legislator, talk to your legislator and ask them to get behind him to help this, because it will be a fight to get it passed. But if we can get it passed, it will stop people from being taxed out of their homes.
Thanks, Commissioner Halls, and we'll have, we can talk more commissioner comments later also. So any other public comments?
Jeff Day.
Jeff Day? Next.
Greg Olson.
Greg Olson.
Good evening. I'm Greg Olson. I'm up on 19726 Irving Street up in Brentwood. And first of all, I have no issue with your defense of the county budget, the 3%, all of that. It makes sense. But you need to know the level of pain, and you're taxing people out of their homes right now. My taxes are going up. Property tax, 21% increase over last year. The county portion of that is 22%. So you might be going up 3%, but I'm getting hit 22% county only. The city is another 18 to 20%, and I haven't touched on the school part of it yet. I've been retired 4 years. I'm on a fixed income, and you keep raising my cost, property tax, to the point where I'm at about $9,000, just under $9,000 a year right now. My wife and I built this house back in '93. We moved in, we built it for about 200K. And it's valued at 3 times that plus. And quite honestly, the value of that doesn't mean squat to me unless I sell it, which I might do. But you're pushing people out of their homes. I'm on a fixed income. You're just about at the point where you're taking half of our Social Security checks. And I have no say in the matter. So what you mentioned, Commissioner, about the comprehensive plan to try to fix this stuff, it needs to be fixed because the system is broken. It's just insane. And it doesn't stop. It just goes up every year, 15%, 20%, 10%. It's crazy.
Thank you for your comments, and I don't think anyone up here would disagree with you with a broken system. It's a big challenge, and we are part of that system. So, next speaker,
Jean from Elk River.
Jean from Elk River.
Hi, it's Charlie and Jean. We're at 10619 201st Avenue Northwest, and just did what the guys just said. 21%. 3.5% increase is what we're looking at. 21%. You know, I mean, again, we're just newly retired. Woohoo! I think we're going to go back to work, or we're going to move. I mean, got anything to add?
Tell them what the assessor did.
Oh, okay, and I did go talk to the assessor in March, because they said you had to do that. Anyway, the valuation went from 494 to 604, I thought. Okay, that's like 22%. That's gotta be wrong, so basically, went over, no, I remember that, yeah. No, that's right. What do you do? They're right, I'm wrong, you know? So, well, we don't raise the mill rate, no, you just jack the price up $110,000 and try to pay it. So I guess it's just ditto to everybody else.
Thanks. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you. Next, Chrissy?
No more.
No more.
Okay.
So we'll take others that would like to speak. If you could state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Tori Apps, 19702 Irving Street, Northwest, Elk River. I got a question for the board. Is anything that we say at this podium change anything with the budget that you have proposed? Is it going to change anything?
Our purpose tonight is to listen to comments, reflect on those. We don't finalize our budget till December, till our next
I
meeting.
understand that, but is what we say have any impact on your decision-making for 2024 budgets? Because you gave us the proposal, of which mine was a 21% increase, well above the 3.5%. I don't live on a fixed income. I'm still young enough to be fortunate to get raises every year throughout my career. I am not getting a 3.5% raise this year, and I'm going to pay more money for groceries, more money for gas, more money for this. So I don't see the justification of the increase that I'm receiving or my neighbor. If the county, the city, the school wants to buy my house for what you evaluated it for, it's yours. Thank you. So can you honestly answer me that question? Is anything that we come up here and speak to you about going to make any change in the budget? Honestly. I'll take that as a no.
I mean, I lose sleep over this, so
You lose sleep? I have 4 kids.
we work hard at our budget process. It's something we worked on all year, so we will take in your comments and we'll mull them over and
What?
So you would,
but the piece that
Okay.
we can't control is the valuation of your home.
All right, I understand that. But I have to live within a budget, right? Do you live within your budget?
Yes?
As a county representative. I'm not saying as an individual, but as a county representative.
Our budget changes, though, unfortunately. We got mandates that come down at us without any money.
Okay.
We've got cost drivers that we can't control. We can possibly look at, would you want us to let go of police officers, let go of court personnel, let go of, I don't know which, if you're talking, are you talking Elk River bike paths or are you talking?
Any bike path.
The bike path was the North, what's?
Great Northern Trail.
Thank you. Great Northern was minimal levy funds used for that. It's grant funding
It was grant funds.
outside. We get.
So either way, our budgets go up too. Our gas and utilities are going up exponentially. So at this point in time, you're raising our taxes. Elk River Municipal is raising my electricity bill. Centerpoint is raising our gas bill. The groceries are going up. The gas, they say, has gone down from where it was, but it's still way higher than it used to be. Insurance, homeowners, auto. We can't keep up as individuals. You have to do your due diligence as county members. And I do appreciate that what you guys are going through, and you guys get the brunt of what we're saying to you. But in reality, the county needs to cut costs.
So the answer to your question is yes. It does make a difference on what you say. I sat here last year after I'd been elected, and I listened to everybody that came in and spoke. I wasn't in the seat yet, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that was the most impactful to me was there was an elderly gentleman that got up, and he was almost in tears because he couldn't. He was worried about getting taxed out of his home. So yeah, what you say absolutely does have an impact.
Andrew, I commend you. I feel that you are speaking from your heart. I feel like you are cutting people off from what they want to speak about sometimes. I know you're the commissioner, but yeah, so I feel that fiscally, the county needs to be just as responsible as every individual in here with their home budget, their family budget, college fund budgets, all of this, retirement budgets. Fair is fair. Please consider not raising our taxes. Thank you very much for your time.
Others? Why don't we just wind our way here? Yes. And I would like to say, I apologize if people are feeling cut off. I do know the constraints for us. The piece that's hard for us is the valuation piece. That is state mandated and state controlled. That piece is really tough for us. So when we keep hearing about how much the house value has gone up, we're trying to impact that on a state level. We work closely with our legislators, but those rules and processes are strict, come down from the state. And that's the challenge for us. We don't have control over that piece. I agree. We agree.
Madam Chair, if I
We
may.
agree. Yes.
It's not a finger pointing game. Okay, this is something I found out after I got elected. There are two ways you can organize your county government in the United States of America. One, your county government can do anything not prohibited by federal or state law. Two, your county government can only do what they're allowed to do by state law and federal law. You can guess which kind we have in the state of Minnesota. So the state in Minnesota is super strong. So a lot of this stuff that comes down from the state, we can't change it. You know, and that's where everybody gets really hammered on the valuations and stuff like that. I mean, in terms of trying to keep the budget down, sure, we are. And we've been doing a lot of it. We didn't even take our raise. We didn't take our whole raise that we're supposed to get. That's the standard. We changed that to reduce the budget. But there is a limit, unfortunately, to what we can do. I'll let these folks talk now.
All right, I'm Colleen Corrigan. We live in Becker Township, 17825 67th Street in Becker Township. I have a question, and I'd like you to help me understand. Everybody's saying that their taxes are higher than your percentage, and I spoke with both the assessor's office and the auditor's office this week, and I think I understand it, but I want you to explain it to me better. Do I understand correctly? When you say a levy, from what I understand, you put a levy in place and it never comes out on our taxes correctly, not from the school district, anybody. They say it's going to cost you $10 more. What I understand is that dollar for dollar, a levy is talking about the value of your home at the time the levy is put in place. Now, my property went up 40% this year. So you are saying that the levy, your levy dollar amount is 40 times higher than it was put in place when it went into effect, because I have 40% higher property tax value now? Do I understand that correctly? That is
No.
truth in taxation that I don't think is
Yeah.
being represented properly.
No, you don't have it correct. Think about it this way. The county board sets a budget, and to meet that budget, they need to collect, in this case, about $60 million in local taxes. That 60 million gets assessed across probably, I don't know, Diane, 40,000 parcels? About 42,000 parcels. Each one of those 42,000 parcels is assessed differently. So that's why you might see a value go up here of 20%. Somebody else may have a value that went up less. And so when that 60 million is put against 42,000 parcels, they're going to vary. They're not going to be exactly 3.25%. So what we do is we said, how much taxes do we collect last year? How much are we asking to collect next year? The difference is 3.25%. On your home, it may be higher, and on other homes, it may be lower. I know folks who are paying less property taxes next year because their home values either didn't go up or didn't go up by enough that that levy went up. So we levy against those 42,000 properties.
I think an easier way to put it, so you understand, the 3.25% is a fixed number, right? The budget is a fixed number.
Not on my check, it isn't.
No, it is a
It-
fixed number across the county.
Okay, but when the school board says it's going to cost you this much more, we're going to put this levy in place, and it's going to cost each homeowner this much more if they had a $100,000 home. If all of a sudden your house is a $200,000 home, it costs you twice as much, correct?
Yes, but someone else is paying less.
Nobody's paying
Nope.
less as far as I can hear.
No,
Okay.
how it works is the levy is a fixed amount. It's a fixed amount of dollars, and that gets spread across all 42,000 parcels. Now, there may be some rounding issues in there where it doesn't come exactly out to 3.25% when it's all said and done. But because of the three things that we talked about, the pricing out of the homestead exemption, because of the 1.25% acceleration once the value is above $500,000, and because of the valuations themselves, right? So if your valuation, so for example, in Elk River, if the average valuation in Elk River went up 7.7%. If you were on water, the average value went up 14 or 15%, right? So the valuation on water went up twice as much if the house happened to be on water than if you weren't on water. So what happens is all that math gets applied to a fixed amount. So the county's not collecting extra money if your valuation goes up. The county's still collecting the same amount of money, but right, wrong, or indifferent, right? I'm not saying that this is the right way to do it or wrong way to do it. I'm just explaining the math, right? It comes out that some folks, there's a huge disparity in how those valuations in the houses, in those parcels are affected based on whether they're in the city, out of the city, on water, not on water, if there's improvements and all those things. And what happens is when you divide up all that money across all those 42,000, some of them, because of the way this works, especially with that acceleration at 500,000, see big increases while others see little or none. That's how it works.
Because there's so many different kind of comps that they can't even find another piece of property that's exactly like yours, because there's so many different. I talked to the assessor's office and I said, tell me how come, he had said there's a new land schedule out, the state or whoever, there's a new land schedule out for open land, and that went up 40%. Okay, so it's open land, this land schedule changed this year, and that's why this open property is so much higher. But he couldn't give me any comparable piece of property in Sherburne County that was the same as my piece of property. So the comps they're changing so fast, or there's so many different categories that it's ridiculous. There isn't another piece of property. So he's saying that my property went up that much. He doesn't have another piece of property that he could show me that there was, a comparable value. So that's a difficult situation too, all the different categories.
Well, and I, just as an example, I mean, we're neighbors, right? We live on the same lake. And, the issue that he's talking about with one of the houses on the lake, the 2022 valuation was $400,000. That house sold for $715,000, right? And the problem with what the assessor's office is tied to is they have to use actual sales. And so when you have actual sales like that, when that house on that specific lake, it was on Lake Orono, it sells for $350,000 more than its previous year valuation, that's what drives a lot of that.
Not fair, right? Not fair.
I appreciate all you're doing, and you're working with the legislature. I just have one question. Shouldn't you have been working with the legislature years ago when they were doing this? And do you have any idea when everyone seems surprised when all of a sudden, oh yeah, they're raising it to over 500,000? Well, we didn't even know that was coming, or things like that. Is there any way that this is coming, or is it all a surprise to you as it is to us?
A lot of times at the legislative letter, it's as much a surprise to us as it is to you.
Yeah.
Well, then you're not doing your job, because you have people that are supposed to be keeping track of this and kind of see what's coming, and you're talking to the legislatures. You are on a same basis, one same name basis, first name basis. You'd think it wouldn't be such a big surprise.
And it's also helpful if
Head it off.
constituents reach out to all of their representatives to
Yeah,
push
you want
for
us
the
to do
same
that.
thing. Your voices are greater than what our voices can be as well. But if we combine them all together, I see that we could make some significant changes, because unfortunately, the push has been nobody seems to want to open up this can of worms, but it's got to get opened up.
And we elect you to open it and keep an eye on it.
You need to help us as
Yes,
well, help
we do. But
situation.
it's like a
Yes.
voice in the wilderness.
Well, and I don't think anybody foreseen the craziness of where the housing market went. I mean, it just took off like gangbusters, and we're
But
trying
it's
to.
an anomaly.
And it probably will, you're right.
Yeah, but don't take advantage of it.
Cannot disagree with you more. It's the property tax system in Minnesota is nuts. Totally agree with you.
Okay, so another speaker? Yeah, you
So does
too.
mine. So did mine.
Or why don't we have anyone that is planning on speaking line up by the back
Yeah,
wall
that's a
there, and
good
we can just take them in order, and if each person wants to take a couple minutes, that would be great. And none of us are disagreeing with a structure and a system that is very dysfunctional and incredibly complicated. And it is something we connect with our legislators with all the time about, that we're trying to work on. So.
My name is Brian Hubb. I live at 303 Proctor. in Elk River. I want to thank the administrator for your run through everything. It almost makes me feel bad for complaining, almost. I certainly agree with all of the sentiments around here, and it's crazy. We've been in Elk River for 20 years. I live in a 100-year-old house, and we're watching the property values just, I understand there's a system, I understand there are rules, and yet magically, oh, my property is worth more, and apparently everyone needs to cash in on that. And it's very painful. Having lived here for 20 years, I've gotten to see quite a few things in Elk River. One that irks me, maybe more in the line of a solution rather than just simply complaining that costs are high, is Parks and Rec. We have watched huge numbers of parks go up, projects go up. I love parks. They're great. How many do we have? There's a big swath down on the Mississippi that's a park now. There was the Holton Farm, a huge section of valuable land, now off limits. We've watched bike paths spread like kudzu. They're everywhere. Recently, we took up a large section of Highway 10. We took out 2 lanes of traffic. We cut down all the trees. We put in another 2 lanes of traffic, and we added lights. I don't snap at my children to keep the lights off because it's free. We're going to be paying for those forever. So please, no more parks. Stop it. Cut some people. Do something there. Don't add anything else. If it's a low value thing, if we're only going to be paying 3 cents on the dollar, don't. Please. Please stop. With all of these, you can go 10 minutes and you've got state forest. I know, I hunt there. There's the wildlife refuge. There are plenty of parks in existence. Let's sell something. Let's take it off the budget, because those are the discussions I'm going to have. I just got my property insurance today. It's going up several $100s again. So I get to ask, not how can I increase it only 3%. I get to look at what we get to cut. Please, cut. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy and Steve Nelson, 13990, 194th Lane Northwest, Elk River. We've lived here for about 10 years, came from Missouri. And in that 10 years, when I average out our tax increases across the board, we're at about 8.5% over 10 years. I understand the county only increases their budget by 3.25%. Then we have the city, and then we have the school district. Who gets a 3.25% raise every year at work? Just if we're looking at the county, I don't. Why not tie it to inflation? That's typically what drives people's incomes as well. Look at tying it to inflation. If I heard earlier that, well, we have to keep our employees, we have to give them all a raise. I hope you're not giving them all a 3% raise this year, because we're not getting that. So think about those kinds of things. You guys know if you do a yearly 3.25%, we're going to get hit by the city. We're going to hit by the school district. Maybe you 3 entities need to communicate together. Maybe you need to have a powwow every quarter or a couple times a year to coordinate what you're all doing to understand the impact on the taxpayers. Because all 3 of you tax us every single year, and it's not sustainable. 8.5% a year, we made good money. We are not retiring here. We're not going to stay in Minnesota. Minnesota's losing population. Yes, our county is growing right now. But what happens when our county starts to shrink? Because people are done. What's going to happen to your tax base? Think about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. People aren't going to stay. We aren't. We're from Missouri. We had more land in Missouri. We had a bigger house in Missouri. We were closer to the city, and I just looked at the taxes on that same house, and they have, yes, gone up, of course, that's to be expected, but nowhere the way our taxes here have gone up, and we are probably going to go back home. That's the reality. We aren't going to stay. So I encourage you to look at tying your budget to inflation, because that's actually reality for people, okay? And then look at coordinating with the other taxing entities that impact people in your county and coordinating with them and coming up with a long-term plan of how maybe you can roll things back, whether it's parks, whatever. I guarantee you, there's gonna be something you can cut back on if you really take a deep dive. Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I do. You don't get to talk for me all the time. Huh? You must be a great wife, honey. So my name's Steve Nelson. I've spoken here before. A business owner, or not an owner, but I've run a business here. I've told you we moved our manufacturing down to Iowa because of the property taxes. Fortunately for Sherburne County, you gained. Somebody bought our building and brought another business in, so, you know, Wright County's loss, your gain, but you lost about 14 jobs. Running these numbers, I was looking at it, I'm probably gonna get lynched. Your increases don't seem to be too bad, I get that, it's understandable, but we've had a 20% roughly increase in people. We've had growth, so property improvements have occurred, and I don't understand why certain individuals, particularly in this room, are getting hit with 20, 40%. Those should actually be going down. You know, that should be going down. We're spreading, you're doing a good job maybe managing, and I'll pat you on the back a little bit. And we've got more people to share the load, but it's just going up. Now, I hear this stuff, and I hear Commissioner Danielski, I understand that. The state, and I've heard this state mandate crap, and I'm sorry I call it crap. If they don't give you money, you don't provide the service. And if they threaten you, you get your county attorney to go stand up for us. Because that's what I have to do. If I have a contract and somebody breaches my contract and tries to come after me, I shut down, and you don't get that. I will fulfill my contract, my agreement that I made. That's it. Now, our county attorney goes after all kinds of things, and I would suggest that you and Wright and Stearns and Kennebec and all, you guys get together and you go say, look, you're either going to pay us so that we can fulfill these mandates that you've dictated to us. The school boards will say, I'm going to be sitting in Elk River next week, probably the same speech. This is ridiculous, guys. I mean, I get it. The other thing is, okay, our home values go up, but you guys are holding costs on these services. I mean, a 3% increase, 2.5% increase in COLA, I get that. But if our personnel is only 53% of the budget, that's only a 1.5% part of it. So now we've got another 1.5% of your only 3%. That we've got to justify, and I just don't see that increase in services. As a business owner, for a 3% delta, I got to figure out a way to make that work, because I can't always pass that on to my customers, because I'm competing against people all around this country, and they're not doing this. Those people aren't seeing 8% increases. They're not seeing that. So, you know, you've got to sometimes make a cut. You gotta, and it doesn't mean cutting people, but like these people have said, maybe we don't get to have as good of parks, or maybe we don't get to do that one highway project, or maybe we don't, you know, we just have to, it's hard. Haven't done this for 25 years, guys. It's hard, and I get it. And people are those resources that you do have to protect. I understand that. And I also understand that we have, but you're even, Bruce, I mean, you're only increasing a few people. And that's amazing for the increase in population. So you guys' processes must be pretty good to be able to maintain your staffing and still handle some of those other requirements. So guys, I encourage you to take a stronger look at what do you really need, and then how do we distribute this? Because what I'm seeing too is people that have higher value properties are getting slammed with these increases, and the average person is getting to slide. And I'm not saying it's horrible, but I'm just saying everybody got to share in the pain a little bit, and putting it all on certain individuals who happen to have, you know, I wouldn't say win the lottery, but just happen to have have benefited somehow, you know, doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, well, thank you.
I
Thanks.
put the slide back up because your lovely wife there, I think you said, so, asked about the adjusted for inflation. So the orange bars are adjusted for inflation. So actually, over the last 12 years, the county has not only kept its budget or its levy lower or at inflation, it's actually lower. And then if you look at, again, the individuals, so then if you do per capita, the purple bar is the one adjusted for inflation. So that index is something we look at every year, and we try to stay under inflation. And again, the 12-year history is we've done that. I'm also going to put up, Madam Chair, the property tax refund slide, because a lot of the folks are talking about percentage increases that should make them eligible. So I'll put that up now.
And my name is Larry Pepp, and I live at 13884 Riverview. My 2022 tax statement went up 1% over 2021. My 2023 tax statement went up 6.1% over 2022. My 2024 tax statement went up 17.4%. Why? I have a question about the valuation. If the state comes through and gives the market values, why do we need assessors? Why do we need them? If the state is doing this, why do we need county assessors?
Well, just to clarify, the state sets the rules. We have to implement them. So we're the boots on the
Well,
ground.
then why do we need a county assessor? What does the assessors do? Don't they come in and raise and lower it?
Yeah, they go in and they have to look at every parcel, and there's all these
They
rules.
have the power to change that, right?
Only within very certain parameters, but there's a whole large book on how assessing is done in Minnesota. But the people from the state don't come out. By the way, I will tell you, they do come out, but the state does big things, like they assess the Sherco power plant. We don't do that. But homes and small businesses, we do those, and it's our people who do that. So yeah, I would, Michelle's right there. She will explain it to you.
Well, I talked to her a little bit before that, and I said, why do we need an assessor if the state's doing this? I mean, if you can only raise and lower it a little bit, what good is it? Why are we paying them?
They're setting the state sets the values.
The state
State
sets
sets
the
the
rules
values,
and the
for doing the
rules.
work.
Thanks, Greg.
Sorry.
And we have to apply it towards our current value to determine what the future value is going to be for your taxes. So we have to be between that 90 and 105% of the ratio. That's your sale price, your value divided by the sale price gets us our ratio. If we fall below the 90% when we submit our data to the state, our values to the state, they can come in and mandate a 5-10% increase if we don't get above that 90%, and you cannot appeal that value. So the state does not do the work for us, we do the work, we provide it, but they set all the mandates and requirements for my staff to follow, to do the job.
Better if 5% lower and then make them mandate it.
Madam Chair, if I may. As she's saying, for the people, if you couldn't hear it very well, the state sets the rules by which we do a lot of these things. And then the state doesn't always, like people are asking, maybe cut a road project. Well, the state does actually mandate how we do our certain roads. County state aid highways, all of those road projects, the state mandates how we do them. And also the state provides a lot of that money. So if we say we're not going to do it, because I've been working on this, believe me, I've been working on this, road issues and what we spend on our roads, is that if we don't do it to the state standard, they take the money away. So we could not do things a certain way. We could try to cut some of those programs, or we could try not to have our roadways at the state standard, but then we're actually going to lose money, and your taxes would go up for the money that we spend on the remaining roads. It's a conundrum. It really, really is at times.
Yeah. So 1 year, the state mandates 1%. The next year, it mandates 6.1%. And the next year, it mandates 17.4%.
No.
That's what I say. You say no, I say yes, because it's there. And you say it's all in the market value.
Because it is.
Because it is. So the state mandated that.
The state
1% to
mandated the
6.1
rules
to
by which we assess
17.4.
the market value.
What was that?
So at the,
State mandated the rules by which the market value is assessed.
yeah,
So
what
now
the-
this last year, they went way up. Is that what you're saying?
The market values for everyone's homes went way up. I don't believe the house I live in is worth what they say it is. It's worth 4 times what I paid for it. You know, and it's not, but houses in the neighborhood are going for more than mine. Relatively similar properties. There are no properties exactly like mine, because mine's kind of unique, but these assessments, they just keep going up. You know, I've been here 28 years. You know, a lot of the issues that you have are why I ran in the first place. Am I looking for solutions? Absolutely. Have I found any good ones
Anything
yet?
about it yet, though?
Huh?
Have you done anything about it yet?
We're working on it.
Working on it. That's the same
There's
story we've
There's a
heard
whole lot of
all
money
year.
we were asked to spend this year that that we're not spending. Absolutely. Yeah, we've been working on it.
Every politician, you hear the same thing. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Okay, I appreciate your comments.
All right, I'm getting pushed out. I see it.
Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Linda Schultz. I live at 19561 York Street in Elk River. I'm not here so much to talk about my taxes, but I am a Realtor, and I have been a Realtor for 37 years and worked in Elk River area for many years. Oh. And I have a lot of clients right now that are looking at moving due to the tax situation here, and we are much higher than the surrounding areas. We're much higher than Otsego, Ramsey, or even higher than Rogers, which is Hennepin County. My question is, and I don't know if you could put it back to the screen that showed the new construction, the income revenue from that. I guess what I'm not understanding is that if we've got 20% increases, 40% increases, all these huge increases around the board, you're getting all that additional revenue. Where's all that additional revenue going? Because shouldn't that make up for that levy? And
It
some of
does.
the other things?
Yeah, so if you look there, that's not revenue, but you see the tax base is going up by about, we'll just say 150 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
That tax base, Dan, buys down about how much of our total increase?
Over 1.5.
Yeah, so about 1.5. If we didn't have the new construction,
Mm-hmm.
then we'd be 1.5% higher. So it is reducing the overall tax increase on the rest of the parcels.
So even though you're getting these huge,
My house value has gone up 100% in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And if all the homes are going up that percent, doesn't that mean there's more money coming in? And new construction is bringing more money coming in?
Yep, the pie got bigger.
Where does that money go? If you're only increasing your budget 3%,
Right.
where does the rest of the
Well,
97% go?
again, the schools are, well, I don't know about your particular home value, but the schools are taking an increase. Again, the cities are taking an increase in their piece of the tax piece. But if we didn't have the county growing its tax base, which means new businesses and new homes, then the tax would be higher.
Bruce, I think there's a misunderstanding of,
Sure.
of the question here. So what she's saying is that her tax is much higher. The increase is 20% or whatever. What the question is, okay, so that means that extra money is coming into the county that they weren't counting on above and beyond the levy. And that's not the case, right?
Correct.
So an individual's tax can go up dramatically, but it's offset someplace else. The net money coming into the county, the difference is that 3.25% increase.
Yep.
It's not, we don't set a tax rate and then just collect whatever we collect. That's not how it works. As I was saying before, the levy is a fixed amount and it gets divided out amongst those properties. And some get increased a lot and some get increased a lot less or less.
in the way they do it.
Yeah. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just talking about the math.
Yeah.
I'm just purely talking math.
If you own a $100,000 home and you own a $500,000 home or a $750,000 home, you tax them at the same pace at
5%. Everybody's putting their fair share in based on the value of their home instead of increasing it.
And that would take a change to state law.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the
Agreed, right?
Even if the assessors do their job the way the state wants them to, they're still in charge of what your value is.
They have to follow, so, and to go back on this, once again, the way the assessment works is the state mandates the guidelines which the assessors have to use. And that's based on actual sales. So they have a very narrow path on what they can, on how much discretion they have, okay? Based on what the state requirement is. Then beyond that, the overall assessments in the county have to fall between 90 and 105% of actual market value. So the state goes back and looks at actuals compared to those, what the assessors in any given county came up with, right? And if they don't fall within that 90 to 105%, then what happens is the state takes over. And the state will set it at whatever the state wants to set it at. And then usually, they will set
You're
it
going
high.
to feel rushed, you're going to feel pushed, but we have a line of speakers, so I need to defer to them.
Which,
So,
which slide did you want me to bring up?
good.
Which slide
Well,
did you
it
want?
didn't, I don't know that I got fully answered with the question, but I guess, I didn't get to ask it, I guess, either.
Yeah.
So, of each dollar of tax revenue that you get, how much does the county get of that? What percentage? Is it 30%?
Well, and again, this is an average, so if we collect the taxes for everybody, which we do, so that dollar there, so basically 61 cents is going to other taxing entities, schools, cities.
Oh, okay, okay.
And again, this is
39.
an average.
Right,
If you're
so
in
it
a
could be
city,
30,
we
could
take a
be-
little,
Yeah,
okay, but that's the rough average. So we get 39 cents out of every tax dollar.
okay. So if people's taxes are going up 20 to 40% per year, that's got to be a huge amount of revenue. So where is that revenue going?
But not everybody's. The folks who are in the room, I'm sure, are the ones who are seeing large tax increases. Like, guess what?
Do you know what percentage people got increased?
We know on average, the values of homes went up 7.7%.
Understand that, but out of all of the, every taxpayer in Sherburne County, how many got increases the last year?
Any increase? I don't know. I don't know of the
You don't know how
42,000
many
parcels.
properties have had increases?
No.
Or how much?
No.
Okay. Because I just was kind of wondering, where does that whole pot go to?
So, Madam Chair.
Again.
Yeah,
Andrew.
so just to clarify.
Yeah, we
So at
don't-
the end of the day,
Yeah.
when we collect all the money from the taxes in 2024,
Yeah,
for the county portion, it will go up 3.25%. That's what, on average, across the county will be collected.
That's what we will take in, no more than 3.25% from our tax
That's what
base.
that's what I think the misunderstanding
Yeah.
is, because you're correct in that there are individuals that are seeing much higher increases.
Yeah.
But there are others that are across the county that are seeing decreases or flat. And it all averages out, and at the end of the year next year, if the levy stays at 3.25%, then that's what will be collected, is 3.25% more. Not more than that,
okay,
okay?
all right,
And so, just hopefully
Okay,
to help, I'm
thank
going to
you.
put the.
We're going to go on to the next speaker.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Tracy Soden, I live in Big Lake.
Hi,
You
Tracy.
haven't seen me in a while. I used to come to the meetings, but honestly, I can't afford to come to the meetings anymore. My husband and I share a car, and that's it. So I agree with every single one of you, sir. My anger is right up there with the rest of you. My property taxes value didn't go quite up this much this year, but all I hear is blame. Blaming the state, blaming the school district, blaming the cities for their going up, but not one of you is holding your spending accountable. You update parks, you upgrade parks. Graham's Park, did that really have to be done? Big Elk Park, yes, the property was given to the county, but couldn't you just leave it blank and not spend the money? If you say you're not spending money on it, it's going to take money to maintain it. It doesn't matter. Your spending needs to come under control. Cut. Period. All I hear is blaming the state. But you are the one sitting up there right now. And that's it. I moved from Plymouth 12 years ago to get away from a population of people, to come up here to quiet. I don't want people to move up here. You say you want to attract people? No. We live up here because we don't want to be like the metro. My family and I are striving to get out of here because we're done with you as far as spending. You spend on electric charging stations. You spend on parks that are upgraded you don't need to. Just please stop the spending. Our budgets have to stay under control. Why can't yours? And Bruce, you say you ask us for money? We don't have a choice. You take it. I don't want to give you money. So when you ask for it, you're not saying it right. I don't want to give you money, and I'm pretty sure everyone else here doesn't want to give you money either. So that's the wrong term to be saying. So thank you. Thank you for serving. And like I said, I'm striving to get out of this county because I'm done with you. I'm done with your spending because you don't listen to anything any of us say.
Thanks, Tracy.
Hi, I'm probably the oldest man in the room.
And the best looking.
I've been here for 43 years. I live out on 207th Avenue Northwest. And yeah, I moved out here and it was, my taxes were, I don't know if they were maybe $700 or $800 a year, but they've gone up a lot. And I live on Social Security and a tiny little bit from investments, and that's it. So money is an issue. So my real questions are these. When I lived on the farm out in Wright County, and not too many years ago, when they sold land out there, it was one house per 40. Okay, well, if you're building houses right next to each other out here, that's ridiculous. Who the heck wants to live in those places? I think that you ought to mandate, or you probably have control as county board of what the land usages are. I'm sure you do because I know other counties do. So I suggest you start changing things that are affecting the taxes. That's one thing. You got all these people moving up here. It sounds like a good thing, but to me, it is not a good thing because I don't know that they pay enough taxes for the demands they place on schools and everything else. So that's my concern. My big concern is that you're not cutting budgets. In my life, in my upbringing, my grandfather and father went through the recession or depression, and my grandfather told my father, who was had 2 or 3 kids, you do not spend money. We don't have money to spend. The only thing that you save your money for is because you're going to have to pay the taxes on the place just to maintain owning the land. And so that's the kind of life they had, and that's the kind of upbringing I inherited. So this business about all this money is just stupidity in my view. Sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Great Schwartz.
My family farm, I wonder if my Phoebe family farm was near you in Wright County. We'll have to compare notes later, but we thank you. And we do have, this board is responsible for land uses, so we appreciate comments like that we do have control over, so.
Who's
Thank
Nelson
you.
and Wendy?
Oh.
I don't need to look at that.
I was supposed to pick it up.
That's all right, no worries.
Look at it.
Yeah.
You want to, we could trade.
Oh, I don't know, you want to trade with me. This is Greg Schwartz again, 204-241 156th Street, Northwest, and I want to thank you all for your time coming out tonight. I just wanted to add on just a little bit, just a little more history. I've
Okay.
been there about 27 years. When I first started, it was $700. Now, I got, and then when it was just a $100,000 house, I added another 100,000 addition, okay? And then it went up to 240,000. Now it's way over $400,000. So that means I lost the that nice little kickback they give you because you live in your own home. All right. So yeah, so my taxes have gone up a lot this year, and I don't know about you. I don't know if any of you benefit at all from the price of your home.
No.
Just living there, right?
No.
It just goes up, goes up. You got no control over it at all. And also, fairness, there are national companies that come in and they compete for these single-family homes. You got to know that like 90% of them are, gobbled up by these investments. And that's what's driving the price of the property. And that's raising this formula that the state comes up with based on the saleable price of the home, which doesn't benefit any of us here in the room because we live in those homes without doing anything else to them. So it's an unjust formula, totally unjust, especially for our retirees who are on fixed incomes. It's not right. What they should do is lock in the price of the home from what they bought it for or whatever else they added to it, stay it right there, and then you're based on taxes on that until you sell. Now, that would make perfect sense, If you go and you add into it, well, then, you might risk jumping up again, but that's what you do when you increase the price of your home. So, again, thank you all, but we understand the formula that you're given is not a just and righteous formula. So I just wanted to throw that in. So,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Halls, and I really appreciate that comment. That resonates clearly, and we really saw in COVID, people from outside Minnesota, especially East Coast people, they can buy property and land really cheap here. With the money they have on the East Coast, we saw those companies, especially snatching up lake property in this area, and they'd pay cash for whatever. It didn't matter. And top price. They would overprice everything. And that is affecting all of us. So, Commissioner Halls.
So I just wanted to comment. So the exact, where did he go?
He's,
Oh, there you are. Okay. The exact thing you're talking about is that fourth piece of the legislation that Representative Novotny and I are working on. And what that does, it mirrors, if you look up the Florida Save Our Homes amendment, it does exactly what you just said. So it does allow for the home value to increase by a maximum of 3% per year, or this consumer price index, whichever's lower. That's what he's trying to replicate in this bill. And so what it does, it protects people once they establish their home, once they live in their home, and once they establish it as their homestead, then it locks in that value. So it does exactly what you were talking about. So that's what he's trying to get past.
okay. Next speaker.
Roger Page, Riverview. We live over on Riverview Drive, and we moved there 45 years ago, and I built the house with my own two hands, and we're being taxed out of it. We've seen the valuation started at $38,000, which is what it cost me to build it, and now it's just a few thousand short of $500,000, which is baloney, because the kids nowadays can't afford that. But who sets it? Some jerk in St. Paul that isn't elected. He just sets it arbitrarily because BlackRock and all these other investment firms are driving in here and they're gobbling up everything in sight. And you hear about all these houses that are sold with 4 or 5 bids, and they each of them outbid each other. That's the investment companies that are doing that. And we have to pay the price for that. And I think that's garbage.
We agree with
So
you.
we've seen our property taxes double in 4 years, and I've been retired. We can't afford to stay. We got to sell too. My son had to sell his house. This is getting ridiculous, the increases in the taxes based on inflated property values, which the government did in the first place because of all the spending in Washington. We're getting murdered over that. You got something to add?
Yes,
Don't,
I do.
we would not disagree with you.
Okay, so the mandates that you're talking about, oh, the mandates that you're talking about, is that the state legislature that are the people that set it? Do they have to answer to other states' legislatures, or they can make up their own? Or do they have things they have to follow also? So anyhow, I just wanted to know that the state legislatures, maybe we should be voting for somebody else and trying to get rid of the people that are doing this to us. Certainly, there's got to be somebody with common sense. That's one thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing is, do we have any problem with developers that that build these huge apartment complexes? Are they paying these taxes also as a homestead? Do they pay?
No.
Do they pay property taxes, correct?
Yeah.
Well, if they pay property taxes, then we total, with my son, 4 people in the house. And how are their property taxes per person compared to us when that apartment building holds 72 people? Don't you think there should be some some mathematical situation where they could pay taxes like we're paying or something like that?
They don't begin.
They don't begin to compete. We're paying for them to have your services, the county services that you just talked about, the 3 Ps. So,
They pay less than 60%.
yeah,
Per,
if they
per
pay,
apartment unit than what a family of 4 in a home pays.
do you know what an apartment complex
Administrator
typically
Messel,
pays?
do you have some information, or Dan, on apartment
Yeah,
complexes?
we're going to jump on here.
And tax structure? Thank you.
Apartments are taxed at 1.25%. Thought you had it on. Apartments are taxed at 1.25%, and then that gets built into the rents that they pay. So the building itself pays on 1.25%. So if it's $1 million building, they have to pay 1.25% on that value. And then that gets charged back to the tenants that live in that apartment. So it's part of their base rent that helps pay that property taxes for the building.
And it's normally greater than $1 million.
Yeah, that's just a nice round number
Just-
as an example, yeah.
How about the evaluation?
How are apartment
They're
complexes,
they're
buildings
based on the
val-
income that they generate. So the nicer apartments you have that charge more rent, pay more in property taxes because they're collecting more income. If you have an older apartment that has lower rents, they have lower property taxes because of value, they're not generating as much income.
What if it's subsidized by the state?
They pay a lower tax rate, right? What do they call it?
Still taking a footprint.
So,
8.75.
we're gonna stick with our speakers. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
So the conclusion is, I think we're paying a lot more than the people that are in apartments. So is that what we're supposed to do? All move to apartments? That's, if you have any say in how Sherburne County grows, maybe we should consider not so many apartment buildings.
Well, and most people will say, again, you're pointing fingers, but most of our apartment complexes are in our cities, and this board has no control over land development within city limits.
Okay, so,
So I apologize, but that is real, that's true, that's
Okay.
transparent. And if you look
Oh.
at our apartment buildings are all in our cities. So
Okay.
please take that to your city councils,
yes, we will.
okay?
Tried that.
We've already been there.
Okay. Okay.
You get the
Do you
run.
have any other? We appreciate that you came in tonight. The next speaker?
Hi, Dean Detterman, 20791 Twin Lakes Road, Elk River, Minnesota. God's country.
Hi,
That's what I
Dean.
tell the people in Orono.
Welcome.
That's where I'm from, is Orono. I mean, my mom's house is they're waiting for her to die, so it's worth about $400,000. They want to tear it down and put in a new house there. So, but my question is, can we as a county, as the people of this county say, we're freezing the value of our properties? No property is going up in Sherburne County. Can we say that? Property values isn't going to go up in 2024. Nobody's.
Can't do that without a change to state law.
State law. So what's the state got to do with it?
The state sets the requirements.
What, do you pay them? Well, I mean, all this money, I mean, why
No,
do they?
so this was brought up just a little bit earlier. I'll just clarify. I think the term is a Dillon's Rule county. Is that right? So it was mentioned earlier. So counties are set up two different ways in the U.S. They're either a Dillon's Rule or a Home Rule county. By Constitution, Minnesota is a Dillon's Rule state, which means the counties are agents of the state. And so the counties are required to deliver the services as mandated by the state. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just saying what it is.
Yeah.
The other issue is because we're a Dillon's Rule state, the counties have no standing in court to sue the state. So the counties, the Supreme Court has ruled that Dillon's Rule entities, which can also be cities, by the way, Dillon Rule cities or counties don't have standing and can't sue their home state.
How convenient.
So thanks, Dean. Are there any other people that would like to speak for the first time?
Okay. So that's what I don't really understand that.
Yeah, I would
Should
look
be able
up-
to put our foot
yeah.
down and say no.
I can explain. We can talk about it later.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
It's very frustrating.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm from Baldwin Township. I've been waiting patiently for the last year, approximately, coming to the county commissioners' meetings. I've never spoke, and I'm sure you wondered why. I have communicated. My question is, for the people that are talking about, all this is mandated at the state level, we had a problem here in Sherburne County with our election, and we've had a non-public ad hoc committee that's been taking place that we have not had any ability to find out what you've been discussing other than I did a public records request to look at the minutes. There are a lot of issues that I won't go through. The committees know that there were issues with the contract with the vendor, amongst other things, amongst the vendor not complying with contractual obligations. And this all has an effect at a state level on our elections of the people that we vote for that can change some of these frustrating issues that are coming up tonight. So it really is all about the elections. It's not necessarily about any conspiracy theory. There's a lot of documents that I've obtained just through public records that show that we had a problem here. And again, I think it's time to step up, and you need to make that your ad hoc, non-public meeting public. And you need to let us know what you're going to do about the problems that we had. And you need to come clean about what happened with the vendor in the contract. and the obligations that were not fulfilled. And that's, I would just want to leave it at that. I won't open can of worms tonight, but it all starts with the elections and who we vote for. And if our vote is questioned, if the counting of our ballots is questioned, we need to have that public meeting. We need to have a sit down. You need to let us know what you're going to do about it, and you need to come clean about what happened. Because we can make a difference, and we may have made a difference, and we don't even know, because there's a lot of things all across the country, too. But I'm not talking about the country. I'm talking right here in Sherburne County where there was an issue. And there's at least one board member who's sitting here who could be a problem that may not even should be on the board.
So Linda, I appreciate you coming with your comments, and our topic tonight is the truth and taxation hearing.
And that's exactly.
The budget and levy.
And that's
So-
exactly what I'm saying. The elections of the people that we elect
Okay.
are the people that are setting, that we have a trifecta sitting up in the state of Minnesota.
That impacts our state's.
It totally impacts everything. And when our election is in question, then I'm not so sure that even one of our elections was even valid.
Okay, thank you.
And you know what I'm talking about. And it needs to come out. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any others that would like to speak about the budget and levy hearing information? When we post our meetings, we need to stick to our topic. That's law. Open meeting law follows that, so I'd like to stick to our topic. So if we do veer off on other topics, there's other members that maybe would like to join us in those conversations, and they wouldn't know that that's what we're discussing tonight. So our topic tonight is our budget and our levy. Are there any others that would like to speak to the budget and the levy? Are there any others that would like to speak? Okay, then I will call that we close the public comments section, and I appreciate all the comments tonight and those that you came forward, and I would ask if there are any comments that the commissioners would like to make in closing.
I just would like to make one, Madam
Commissioner
Chair.
Danielowski.
I appreciate everybody coming out, sharing their thoughts. I want to make sure that you all attend the meetings of your local jurisdiction as well. The cities, they're coming up. I think Big Lake already had theirs on Monday. The school districts, and then the townships normally will have theirs during their annual meetings, usually in the spring. So be sure to show up and share your thoughts with them as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming also. And this board, I think, we take it very seriously on how we put the budget together. I think there was some very robust discussions. I don't think anything was put aside lightly. I've always asked, what do you want me to cut? And that is a very difficult question, because for a lot of people, the one thing you might want to cut as a resident or a taxpayer is important to the next person. And the other thing that they might want to cut is important to you. So we have a huge balancing act of trying to get to 3.25%. It was a challenge. I think I'm very proud that we got to 3.25%. There wasn't one commissioner up here that wasn't taking notes. Do we listen to you? Yes. Are we going to address this in December? Yes. I've got a whole page of notes. There was a lot of good ideas, a lot of good discussion that came out of this. I just sat back and listened. This is your time to tell us what you think, and I'm glad you're here because it comes out. Are there issues with certain things? The state? Yes, we have some things. What Andrew's working with is tremendous. I mean, it is not going lightly. Greg's doing the same thing, trying to cut taxes. It is a challenge, and you can't always do it. But we're not immune to what you all experience also in your home budgets. Utilities, insurance, cars, costs, all of it's gone up at the county level also. We're not immune to that. And we have to absorb that in there and try and figure that out. But again, I appreciate you all coming. Did we listen to you? Yes. Will we have a discussion? Yes, we will. What will come of it? I can't answer that. There's 5 commissioners here. I can't decide what the other 4 are going to say, but we will listen.
Thank you, I appreciate your
Others?
stand there.
Madam Chair, I was going to say, yes, thank you for everyone for coming. It's very, very difficult. And a lot of times, what I have found since I got elected is that a lot of times people understand sometimes how the government runs and how the law actually functions within the government in terms of the administrative procedures within government. So one thing I would like to invite everyone, become more involved. You want to see how your taxes change? Become more involved. Whether it's through a local political party, whether it's through your township, go to your townships, go to your cities, go to your school boards. Become involved in that stuff. You know, we're going to keep doing everything we can. I'm super enthused with the project that Andrew's working on with Representative Novotny. I'm sure that my state rep and my state senator, who I do talk to, because somebody had asked if we talk to them, I talk to them regularly, and I know that they're going to be on board with that. We're doing those things, but particularly a change in what we're looking for takes time. That's probably one of the frustrating things because I don't have the greatest attention span in the world. I'd like to get change now, but we can't get change now. It's a very slow process, and a lot of it has to be done through the state legislature. So once again, thank you all for coming, and hopefully we can keep this kind of communication going in the future also.
She already was. Commissioner Halls?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for being here. When we had our budget discussions a few months ago, they were direct discussions.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I said at the end of that was, I hope that this room was filled and that everybody came up and they told their story on what the impact is on raising taxes on individuals. No individual should ever be taxed out of their home. That has been my mantra since I took office 11 months ago. And so I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate everyone's telling exactly what the impact is because it's important to hear those stories. And I am committed to working with Representative Novotny and trying to come up with a statewide solution that prevents that exactly, that no person gets taxed out of their home.
I want to thank everyone for coming. I sincerely apologize for anyone that felt rushed. I knew the room was full, and at times when the first people jump up and get the first to speak, we don't always listen to those last people. So I really as chair, you have to balance to be able to listen to everyone. So I hope everyone felt listened to tonight. The other thing that is, when we gather like this, it's not a dialogue with the dais. It's a public forum where we invite people to speak. So if you felt interrupted at times, I apologize for that. It is to keep a certain level of decorum in the room. I would encourage people, Bruce put the slide up for OpenGov. It will give you every detail about how things are paid for in our county. Many of the things that people listed aren't levied. Aren't even we don't use taxpayer levy to pay for them. So peek at that when you get a chance. We spent hours and hours. When we talk budget discussion, it's not just an hour or two. We spend 2 and 3 full days plus many other workshops throughout the year, many, many hours at this. So everyone on here, I can vouch, takes this seriously. We drill down with it as much as we can. Every single expense that was mentioned at the dais that people are paying for in their households, we're also paying for here to provide services, insurance, gas, pencils, paper, groceries, everything that inflation has affected, we also get affected just on our budget here. And I want people to keep that in mind. We work closely with our legislators. I was with Senator Matthews last week, a couple weeks ago. I've been with him 2 and 3 times in the last couple weeks. We all have very good working relationships. When I was elected to this position, I don't know how much I realized how important that was to work with your state and federal offices. And we worked really hard to paint our picture as the administrative arm of services for the state on what their decisions do to us here. And we're doing that all the time with our legislators. So again, I thank you all for coming. We will take the comments into consideration tonight. If you look at our levy, it was one of the lowest in the whole area. Multiple counties around us are, Anoka's at 15.5%. So I am proud of the work that this group has done and really want to thank you for all being here tonight and thank you for the work of our staff. One of our biggest challenges right now is in public safety and the costs. And I many times thought about our sheriff tonight because he has had some really big challenges. And I want to say to people, what do you want us to cut when we have the sheriff who has dire needs to keep our people safe? So I think of every one of our directors that have programs that they're trying to cover. So thanks to staff, thanks for all the staff that was here tonight. And I believe that our business is done. Commissioner Danielowski?
Can I make one quick comment?
Always the last
Okay,
word.
sorry. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that we are all going to work with the state in regards to the property tax situation. We are going to work with our Association of Minnesota Counties to get all of the counties involved. This is affecting everybody, and it needs to change. The time has come. It needs to change. So we will all be working together on that, and we're looking for you as well to help push those things for change at the state.
And
So
whether it's bad or good, I serve on the state board, and what we find is when counties unite in things like Representative Novotny's plan, we're safety in numbers, just like with everything. It's tough for Sherburne County just to do it on their own, but we don't mind taking the lead, and we have taken the lead on many things. So we will continue to do so. So with that, I am going to call this meeting adjourned. Have a good evening.